Hey, alright, okay, this is the third devlog for Slimecing. Today I'm going to be showing off the ability system and also how I'm implementing the new Unity input system into my game. Well, we'll just get off to showing what's different, and then we'll go into looking at how it's implemented. Alright. Just hit play here. Now what's going to be different is I'm going to be using the new input system, so now it's going to be, there's going to be no slimes that spawn, and once I hit a button on a controller, which in this case I'm going to use my keyboard, slime spawns. And there's also abilities. I think the first one was shown with the dash. That was the first ability, but I've also added a jump. I don't really know how a jump would be important in a fighting game, but I just wanted to add it as another test thing. Getting input for it is a little bit more complicated than just normal dashing. So here I'll show off that. So the dash, and then we got the jump. The jump actually works, so I can do a small jump with a tap, and then I can do a big jump if I hold it. It depends on how long I hold it for, but that's about the max I can get. And there's little jumps, and then I can jump and dash, but I can't jump again. Alright, so first off, to show the implementation of it, how the abilities work is on the slime. I have an ability user script just on the right here, and basically you give the slime abilities, which are scriptable objects which contain all the logic for the abilities. And so right now I have two abilities, dash ability and jump ability. So we'll look at them now and I'll explain what they do. So here's the dash ability, and it has a name and description. Those are going to be more for like UI stuff later. I thought I'd implement them. It's just a variable. So now the stuff that's actually used right now is the cooldown. So when I dash, I can't dash again until the cooldown has like finished. So if I set that to 0, I can just dash forever without stopping. Nothing stops me. I can also set the force, which is, I'm not going to change it because I like these values, but the dash force is just how powerful the dash is, and then the dash length is how long the force will be applied for until it stops, because you see how it just stops like that a little bit. That's just basically how long the force will be applied for. And then the dash use amount is the amount of uses you get before the cooldown starts, so I can set that to 2, and I can dash twice, but then the cooldown happens. You can set it to like 5 or whatever. And then into the jump ability. Now this one's a little bit more complex. It has a cooldown, but since you can only jump when you're grounded, there's really no need to have a cooldown. But it's there anyway because all abilities have the potential to have cooldowns. The jump force initial is the jump from the start, and then the jump force to the double is whenever you jump a second time, which gets into the jump use amount. The jump force multiplier is just what multiplies when we hold it, and then the simulated jump up mass is when we're going up. Our mass actually gets smaller, but when we go down, our mass gets higher, which is the simulated fall mass. And the jump use amount, so we got 1 jump right now, but we can set it to 2. And we get a double jump. I can dash and then jump. It's quite fun. And maybe set to 3. I haven't tested more than 3, but it should work. Yeah. So the first jump can be held, but the second jumps are just static. It's just when we were doing the longer jump on the double jump, it just felt a little weird, so just that jumps are kind of fun. But that's how the jumps work. Um, Now I can talk a bit about the ability trigger, which I skipped over because it's a little bit more complex. Um, the ability trigger is like a second object, and this will handle triggering the ability. Um, Now, triggering the ability, I wanted the abilities to be abstract enough so I could use them for, let's say, like an AI. So the AI will have, like, let's say, a shoot ability, and so it would trigger that in its normal logic. So I just wanted to be ready for that by adding triggers. But of course, for the player, the what triggers the ability is input. So we'll look at the ability triggers. So this just uses the input. I mean the ability, like the action, the input action from the Unity. Um, and I just whenever I get this input, it triggers. This is how I'm going to be handling the abstraction. I hope this is the best method. It's the best one I could come up with, but so hopefully that works out for me in the future. But what the problem with this is how how they help you out with the normal Unity input system is let me find my character here. How they help you out with the Unity the player input system is they have this player input script, and so you can hook it up to events, and then that will do all the movement. So if I actually play here and I connect my controller, um, come on, there we go, and I input on the controller, I get this slime. I can't use any abilities because they're not hooked up to do controller, but I can tell you what happens when you do that. And then we got the second slime, so they do move independent of each other. So this is ideally what I want with the abilities, right? But when you have them hooked up to each other on different things, what will happen is it will get both inputs simultaneously. So like let's say I need jump to be held for my jump, but the A button on the controller is not being held, and of course it's tied to one player. So that's the thing I have to work out later. Well, now actually, now that this is done. So that's the big obstacle next. Trying to figure out how I'm going to differentiate. It definitely is possible, but hadn't figured it out yet. It took me a while to. I had to write a bunch of stuff on Notepad and stuff, like a physical notepad, to figure out how I was gonna do the ability triggers. So I assume I'll be having to do some writing for that. Um, I guess I can show off some of the code for the just to show how the abilities work. Let's see if I have it up here. Ability, there we go. So ability is a scriptable object, and this is the basic ability class that everything inherits from. So we got like the sound, the cooldown, and then the ability trigger, which is its trigger. And we got the cooldowns, which is this basically handles, it has another uses. For example, the dash case, which has 2 dashes, that means you can use it again. And then the cooldown is the cooldown on the dash. And anything, the start ability just checks the cooldown states. And then the use is the actual using of the ability. We can look at the jump ability, or well, dash ability is easier to understand. So the cooldown, it just puts it on cooldown with the amount it has left, and then the use here is just this just basically adds an effect to the player, which would be the actual like logic of the script. I just wanted to do it this way because it just made my life easier just using classes to do it instead of having it all tied to the ability logic here. So we can look at the ability dash effect for a second here. effects. We are not looking for slimes anymore. Dash ability effect. So we open that up, and basically, this is a timed ability effect, so it lasts for a time. That was the time added. So basically, it adds the force at the direction of your input, and then it goes to that force. And then when it's done, it just stops the dash force, and perfect. That's how it works. This is added to the ability user script, which has a list for abilities on cooldown, abilities effects, and timed ability effects. The jump one is actually a normal ability effect, and the dash is a timed ability effect. And this just handles all the logic that so this will be like, this will hold the character controller reference and all that. So this is just like the actual thing that will affect the player, and then the ability effect is the logic of the ability, and then the 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 scriptable object is like also the logic, but it doesn't actually apply anything to the character. Um, that's how it's being done. The biggest thing for now is trying to figure out how I'm going to get the ability input working for multiple players. And once that's done, I'm going to be going on to adding swords. All of this stuff is already done, but I'm just doing better coding practices than I used in the game, because it's really spaghetti code from the old beta. So I'm just going back and refactoring it all, and it's taking a little bit, but I'm happy with the progress so far. Well, that's it. This one's been a long one, but I'm just talking about my game, and I'm passionate about it. Just to let you guys know, I did not make the test level. That was someone else. He's been helping me with the design aspects of the game, so he does all my animations and lighting and stuff. And that basically makes up the Slimecing team for now. It's just him and me. Just thought I'd say that, so it didn't look like all my work. Anyways, that's it, and yeah.